And what a lovely morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning. Good morning. And we say good morning to all of you. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And the truth will set you free. Melody and Beth Ann are here with you today. Good morning, Melody.
Good morning. Good
morning. I keep singing our intro, and people are going to say, go back to Quigley Down Under, go back to Quigley Down Under. Because we didn't sing that one. But we think it's a good way to start the morning. We did hum it.
We hummed it.
Do, 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 do. Love the movie. I love the movie.
It was a good movie, and I just watched that shortly after, maybe a couple months ago. I just watched it.
Because you hadn't seen it before, had you?
No, I hadn't, no.
I've watched it over and over and over and over and over. It's one of my favorites. I remember my mother telling me she watched Gone with the Wind when she was a young woman. She watched it over and over and over again, went to the movie theater, paid to go watch it. Of course, that's when a movie theater was cheap. And I thought, how could you watch one movie over and over again? But I do that. I do that with several movies, but Quigley Down Under is one of them. It's got some great lines in it. Another movie. We were talking before we went on the air about people not wanting to see both sides of a story. And there is a movie out. It's old. It's been around several years, called Ride with the Devil. And it is a Civil War movie. But it really kind of shows how some people just got sucked into that war. They didn't want to be a part of it, but they got sucked into it. And it's really a great movie, and it's got some great liners in it. So if you can ever find it, Ride with the Devil. The lead guy, the singer in it is, what is her name? Jewel. She's one of the actresses in it. And the lead actor is Tobey Maguire. He's in it. I'm trying to think who was it? What's the guy's name that played Christ in?
Yeah, I know who you mean. He has a Jim Caviezel.
Caviezel. Yeah. Anyway, he was in it as well, but it's really a great movie, and it kind of shows both sides of the story. And it's why Missouri doesn't get along with the Jayhawks. But it's about Missouri and Kansas particularly, about how people got sucked into that war. And it was an ugly war. The Civil War was ugly. And there wasn't anyway, it's just a good movie. I'm just going to throw that out there. I didn't even intend to talk about that, but I'm a movie person. I like to watch movies. I don't remember my actors and actresses very well, but I do like movies. So
until I moved to Missouri, I didn't realize that Missouri was a very big part. I think there was more battles fought in Missouri during the Civil War than any other state. And I was surprised. I hadn't realized that, and of course the state was drawn in half between the North and the South, and the church that I went to in Warsaw, Missouri, was a church, but then they had actually turned it into a hospital during the war. Yeah. And after the war, then they returned it, it regained its, the church. And Missouri does have an interesting Civil War history that I really didn't know it played that big of a part until I actually moved there. So
well, and there was always politics even back then. It was a lot of it was about and it was about money more than it was about slavery at the beginning of the war. Anyway, but Missouri came into to the war as a southern state because they wanted to keep them even. Mm-hmm. We can't be divided on this. We got to keep it even, Steven. So you're going to go in as a southern state, and of course Kansas was a northern state. But anyway, I always laugh. I've got a boy that lives in Kansas, but I always laugh when we go because you got to pay a toll road to get in there, and it always has a great big sign, Kansas, the free state. I said, if it's free, why do I have to pay to get in? Pay to get in, pay to get out. I'm just joking. Anybody listening from Kansas, I'm just joking.
All right.
So we better get to the news. We've already lost everybody. They probably think we're just going bonkers here. But bonkers is what the news media is going. And President Trump came out with his top list of fake news awards yesterday. Did you watch any of that?
You know what? I didn't want to know. I really did want to know.
Well, I think it's the reaction that we all were waiting for, the reaction of the left to the media, the mainstream media, because they've been caught in so many falsehoods, so many lies, and he couldn't actually say CNN wins or MSNBC wins. He couldn't actually do that. He just gave the top 11 of the stories. And then the facts. He says that Trump listed 11 stories plus 10 facts. It crashed the website because they all got on it. Everybody got on it and wanted to see it, and it crashed the website within just minutes. So it was interesting, and of course it was things we already knew. We already seen all through the campaign, and since he's been in the White House. So I think it was actually just last year what they did and what he was commenting on and such. But it's, to me, it's comical, but it's sad to watch the reaction of the left that hate him and hate, truthfully, Melody, they hate America. They really hate America and what America stands for. And so the hate is driven at him, whether he's a true red, white, and blue American or not, I don't know. But the American people elected him because we were sick of politicians, and that's the plain and simple. We didn't want Hillary Clinton in there. We see the socialism coming out of the left, out of the Democrat Party. In fact, they're very proud that they're socialist. You know, they take an oath when they take office to protect that Constitution, which is a republic, and then they tell us that they'd rather be socialist. So anyway, I didn't know if you watched any of the news. I didn't watch this actually come out. I just watched it on Fox News when they were reading him, and I thought they were pretty funny.
Yeah, they were funny, and again, a distraction. And, you know, and again, I'm not supporting anyone. I'm just coming out as a possible, you know, and I get it, and I agree with you 100%. In fact, you know, when you remember that poll that I had about, I think it was from the Pew. It was a Pew poll that 40% of the Democratic politicians have no religious affiliation. 40% a big number.
It is a huge number.
It's a huge number. And so I think we see this in their behavior.
They have no integrity.
You know, so not all of them. There's some do, but, you know, for the most part, but at least that, you know.
I'm
but
saying
so that
47%.
Yes,
that 40-some%.
Because you have to have, but my point that I'm going at, what is dangerous is, will we believe anything that they say now? So when they are telling the truth, are we going to believe? And are we only going to believe, are we being kind of conditioned into thinking that anything that they do report is just lies, whether it is or not, and from the other side, is it all truths? And I don't believe, you know, so it could set up a dangerous precedence. However, it is also at the same time exposing exactly what is happening and to the degree of what they will do to fight the conservative side of this country and what it stands for. So, you know, it might be truly a double-edged sword, and where do we and who determines, you know, what is, that's a fine line. It's a fine line. And so we just have to be aware of the news, and certainly now is more of a time to which we really do need to investigate various stories and the reporting and so forth. And so...
well, you know, it's on both sides. You don't hear as much news as you hear as much opinions. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing so-and-so is suing this person or this government is doing such and such. I am so sick and tired of that. You know, and they've got this investigation. It's gone on over a year now, well over a year. They've come up with nothing. How much money is being spent? The American people's money is being spent. Tax dollars is being spent. They just think absolutely nothing of the American people. Those who have no belief in God, the majority of them have no integrity. They have no moral grounds. They don't care what they say, what they do. We see that in this left movement. And the hypocrisy. They'll pretend they have it. You know, so they're mad at the president when he calls a country that really is a third world country and beneath. He calls it a certain name. He doesn't call the people in it that, but they go absolutely ballistic.
I know, yet, so ridiculous.
What are we becoming? Because of their debt, they keep us in debt. They're spending. And they want to bring everyone in here and claim they have more rights than you and I, who are citizens of this country.
Yep.
We're becoming that. At least D.C. is becoming that whole. And go ahead.
I was reading an article this morning about this Chinese woman. Her degrees, she's an attorney. She wanted to live in she wanted a visa. Her pedigree and her education was just, beyond the scope of the normal, and her intelligence. And she wanted to go to work for Google and so forth. And she didn't think she'd have any problem with the application in 2016, but when she applied in 2017, she was actually denied and so forth. And she's whining about how, how this administration and, she doesn't know what she's going to do. She wants to work in this country. But the whole point, what she was also saying, is this country needs high-skilled labor. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with that picture? We as a country can't supply highly skilled labor.
With the money that we're throwing into education and we're practically forcing these kids to go into debt with their college.
But
and then they can't get jobs in whatever they take.
And it's just like these DACA kids. Hey, you had how long to apply for your citizenship? And what'd you do? What'd you do? Nothing.
Joined the gang.
You had an opportunity. You were given an opportunity that was admittedly stated by the president that signed that executive order that it was beyond his scope legally to do this. But he did it anyway, and he was going to leave it up to this administration to deal with it. This administration is dealing with it. So get over it. And, it's the same thing. You have this big announcement. Apple is going to be, building campuses. What the heck do you think? What kind of employees do you think they want? They're not bringing manufacturing back. They can't compete with the manufacturing, so their products cost them pennies on the dollar, and they charge $1,000 for an iPhone. It's just a stupid phone, $1,000. It's just.
They're not stupid phones. They're called smartphones nowadays.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. Whenever I go to use it, it seems to be stupid because it doesn't do what I want it to do.
And that Siri woman, I'm telling you.
I know. I'll tell you.
Oh gosh. No, you're right. You're right. It is comical, they throw us these bones, and we're supposed to wag our tails and jump up and down and catch the bone and catch the little bee in the air.
Apple will be the first $1 trillion company. It's just. But they want the H-1B visas increased so they can bring in skilled labor.
Oh, I hear music. Oh, my goodness, it's been playing a little while. We're going into a break.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually, there is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. And we're going to give the phone number out, 717-300-1218. We've kind of been on a tear here. It's, I watch the news every evening, and it's the same old thing. Melody and I were talking about that before we went on the air this morning, that we're just so sick of the same old thing. And yes, like the callers were saying yesterday, it's propaganda, it's lies, it's half-truths. Even if it's 10% of the truth, you've got to sift through it all. And that's difficult. That really is difficult. It's not really difficult when you see, I think, the press meeting or press conference or whatever you call what that was, when the doctor that's an admiral for the Navy, and he's been a doctor for several of our presidents, and he gives the report on President Donald Trump, and they don't like it because he didn't say what they wanted him to say. They didn't like the way the election went because it didn't go the way they wanted it to go. And so if they don't like something, they've convinced themselves something else is real. And that's a big part of the problem when we talk about the left and the right. Melody, as you and I were saying before we went on the air, even people on the right don't want to listen to both sides of the story as well as the left. Everybody is set in their ways. And so when I see somebody like, and I like him, but I get aggravated when I see these news shows in the evenings, or talk shows, or whatever you want to call them, and they've got opposing sides on, and they're talking. But they're just screaming, and they're not trying to come to a conclusion that's going to benefit anybody.
No, nobody listens anymore. I mean, but you know what? The right was the same way with Hillary during the election. Oh, everybody thought that she was going to fall over dead the next day, and it just went on and on and on and on. And I said, well, no, she probably just had a little too many. But it's and now it's reversed. You have the other side doing the same thing with Trump. It's like he's going to be dead in the next 2 days. He has,
but she is a drunk.
He slurred his words once, and all of a sudden now, and I mean, it's just, you know what? I want to know what
Have you ever slurred your words, though?
Forget all
these distractions. I have done that before for absolutely no reason. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing anything else. It didn't come out right. It just didn't come out right.
These are nothing but distractions.
You're right.
Hey, what happened to the slush fund that paid millions of dollars for these politicians to go have whores? Cover it up and have their sexual assaults and everything. What happened to, who is investigating that? No one. It's out of the news. No one even talks anymore about sexual harassment. It's down in the fine print last page because everybody wants to know how much ice cream Trump eats.
And it's more important for me to know the girth measurement of the man. And they were throwing pictures up. We got a caller. I'm going to go to him just a second. They were throwing pictures up yesterday. This is 6'3", 239 pounds, and then they'd show a football player. Well, you can weigh the same amount, and one person be fat and the other person be well built.
It's ridiculous.
Because muscle weighs more than fat.
It's just distractions.
It is a distraction, but it's also stupidity.
Stupid.
And I'm not falling for it, and I don't think Joe is either. Joe is from Arkansas. Joe, how are you today?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have got through that really bad cold, and I hope that's the worst we have of this winter. How are you?
Amen.
Okay, what I wanted to talk about was, you all talk a lot about how the debt is going to undo the economy, and I wanted to talk about why I think the debt doesn't necessarily have to collapse the economy, and that's this. It looks to me like what the debt is, it's not guaranteed to collapse the economy, but what it is, it's a tool that the bankers, that the money lenders can use to collapse the economy if they want to, but they don't have to use it that way. But it's like this. I once read a book called Night Came to the Farms of the Great Plains, and it was about how bankers would get farmers into debt that they believed they wouldn't be able to pay, so that when they couldn't pay the debt, they could take the farm. But if these bankers wanted to, of course, they could renegotiate the loan, arrange different terms of payment on the loan, take smaller monthly payments or whatever, and they could, if they wanted to, they could allow the farmer to keep the farm, even though he couldn't keep on paying the loan on the original repayment terms. And it's the same with countries, I think. What the bankers like to do, they like to get countries into huge debts. And so that gives them a lever of control over the economy that can say something like, if the country is so far in debt, they can't make the payments, then the bankers can have a lot of leverage over the government that way, and of course by manipulating the interest rate, they can do a lot to control the government's ability to pay or not pay on the debt, and so they can use the threat of collapsing the economy as a lever to get the government to do what they want to do, because otherwise they won't continue to lend them money so that they can keep up their payments on the debt and keep the economy going. And so if they want to use it, and of course, when a bank makes a loan to a person, as I understand, they always put a clause in the contract that they can call in the debt anytime they want. They can demand repayment of the debt in full if they want to, but generally they don't do that. Generally, they stick with the monthly payments. But if they want to take the person's property, they can demand payment of the loan in full. And if the person can't repay, which they probably won't be able to, then they can take the property. And so it looks to me like that's more. And so even if we get so heavily in debt that we can't repay it on the current terms, still, if the money lenders are willing to renegotiate the loans and take lower payments and so on like that, and keep lending us money and, keep pumping money into the economy and take lower installments on the due debt, then the economy can keep on going, even though we are so heavily in debt. I'm not saying that's a good way to run the economy. I think it would be a lot smarter to run the economy on earned money instead of on debt. But that's why I don't think the debt necessarily has to collapse the economy. It all depends on whether the money lenders want to use the debt as a means to collapse the economy or not.
And it is indicative, too, of the manipulation. Melody?
Okay, you renegotiate. The whole thing that's keeping this whole world system together is confidence. And because we're all fiat currencies. And the reason people bought the United States debt was because there was a degree of confidence that the United States would not default, that they would not renegotiate. And when you renegotiate, basically you're defaulting. So there goes the confidence, there goes the currencies. We also have a lot of retirement folks in their retirement pension plans and their 401ks that are holding a lot of these bonds that would be renegotiated, and they would also lose a large degree of their wealth to the government because they have gone so far into debt that they can't repay the money that they have loaned. Right now we're paying the interest on the loan. So, as long as everyone is fat and happy, I suppose, but all it takes is someone to go on a diet, and it can, and it will. It's not a matter it can, but it will upset the apple cart, and we will have a adjustment to the economies and so forth. You just can't go deeper and deeper and deeper in debt and expect to pull yourself out. In the meantime, while we're paying all of our money just to pay the interest, why do you think our infrastructure has crumbled to the degree that it has? Because there's been no money to fix the roads. There's been no money to fix the bridges. There's been no money to do what needs to be done. Our schools are, that is what happens when you're in debt, because all the money you earn goes to pay the debt. And they're not cutting back anything, even with this tax cut. What did they cut? They didn't cut any spending. So, and if they did, a couple billion here. We're talking trillions and trillions, 20-plus trillions of dollars, unfunded liabilities. There's quotes to 70, 80 to 200 trillion that we're in debt, and we're just talking about the United States. So tell me how this can go on forever and not to have any blips along the way. And once you have that blip, the deeper we go, deeper and deeper into debt, those blips become bigger and bigger and more uncontrollable. They can't do what they did before getting us out of the Great Recession of 2008.
Well, like you said, there's a lot of blips along the way, and I think, as you've been talking about, there's a lot of problems here and there, and and there's a lot of blips along the way, and a lot of individual hardship cases and so on like that. But overall, the economy is still functioning, and overall, life is going on, pretty much as normal in this country. And so, although it is gradually getting worse and worse and worse in so many ways, I certainly will agree with that. But it looks to me like as long as the money creators and money lenders are willing to keep pumping money into the economy and keep on juggling everything, somehow or another, so that payments on the debt are kept up, in general, and in the big general picture, payments are kept up, and the economy keeps getting money pumped into it and keeps on functioning. It can go on. It's gone on like that for a long, long time, long past the point when a lot of smart economic people thought it was going to collapse. Like I remember in the 1980s, there were a lot of very smart economic people saying that, things were unsustainable, that the debt was getting so big, that we couldn't go on this way much longer. But somehow they just keep on, keeping it going just a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And they've done that for decades now. And it looks like if they want to, they can keep on doing it indefinitely. Although, like I was saying, if they want to, they can use the inability to repay the debt, as a way to collapse the economy if they want to. And they might want to do that because a friend of mine has often told me about, in 1983, apparently The Economist magazine published something about the New World currency, the Phoenix, And apparently The Economist magazine, which I understand is a mouthpiece of the Rothschilds, said that in 2018, they intended to collapse all the national currencies and replace it with a world currency that they would call the Phoenix. And so that's this year. It'd be interesting if that comes up as a topic of discussion at Davos, whether there is going to be a new world currency like that. But like I say, it looks to me it's a lousy way to run the economy on piling up more and more debt like that. And there's a lot of blips and individual hardship cases and a lot of problems. But overall, it seems like they can keep things functioning, keep things moving along, keep the economy working more or less, as normal, as long as they want to.
As they continue to do that, as long as they continue to feed by more debt, we lose more and more of this country. We lose. This country is no longer America. This country we lose. One of my customers told me yesterday, he says, we're no longer a country or nation. We become an economy composed of consumers and taxpayers. We lose our liberties and our freedoms. They've already been lost, many of them. So the more we go deeper and deeper in debt, the less choices we have, the less our abilities. So is that what we do? Is that what we just keep our fingers crossed, thinking that they can continue to do it forever and ever, as long as they're and those who doesn't, if you don't have retirement accounts, those people, and so what if they lose? So what if they lose 70% of their funds? And that's why they should get into gold and silver, so they don't lose it. But, many of them aren't going to do it, and they will lose. It doesn't set up, and what happens afterwards? It eventually catches up. Because how big is it? How many trillions of dollars can the world go into debt? It's, and again, I think it's beyond sometimes what I believe, when you talk about $1 trillion and you talk about the size of the global economies and how it's all being synchronized, it's beyond logic that it could continue. And if you believe there's a deeper agenda behind all of this, they've created the problem. Now they're going to take advantage of the problem. And you don't let a crisis go wasted. We know that. They've told us that. So, yeah, I don't think whether they're going to introduce a new currency this year or not, I have no idea. But I do believe we're getting to the point. Look at the world. It's not a happy world. People are not being affected in a positive manner with the global elite and these governments going deeper and deeper into debt. We wouldn't be on the cusp of wars. Or some people might say that's why we are. The world is growing so big, and maybe that is what's creating all these wars and the rumors of wars, the wars and rumors of wars. But I believe it's because the world's not doing that well. It's not trickling down. And you're seeing people react. I think we saw that reaction in the election last year. So, I
was thinking on it. And go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Well, I think one of the big reasons we're not much of a country anymore is that we no longer have the pride of being producers. And
it all comes back to the debt.
I've heard what?
It all comes back to the debt. But go ahead.
Well, the debt is because we are no longer producers. We're no longer running the economy on earned money, but we're borrowing money to buy stuff from other countries because we're no longer producers, for ourselves anymore. And I think that's one of the big reasons, why we're not much of a country anymore is that so few people have the pride of being producers anymore. I think that's one of the things that gave America its sense of unity, a sense of being a great country, a sense of pride, and so on like that, was that we were the greatest industrial, the greatest productive, the greatest agricultural, the greatest productive country in the world. And so people have that kind of pride. And I've heard a lot of talk amongst the conservative commentators just recently about a lot of concern about the growing power of China, and about apparently how the Chinese have some program called the Confucius program or something like that to spread their propaganda in the universities and kind of take over the curriculum of the universities. And there's only one reason that China can be such a threat to us and can be becoming the dominant country of the world instead of the United States, and that's that, 40 years ago we didn't buy anything from China, but now all of a sudden in the interim time, now about 80 to 90% of the stuff in the stores, it seems like, comes from China. And so all the stuff that we used to make here and buy from ourselves, now we buy it from China. And so we have to borrow money. So we're continuously sending our money out of the country and have to borrow more and more and more. So we can keep buying the stuff from China. If we would just stop buying stuff from China and instead, buy all that stuff that we used to make here and buy from ourselves, if we would do that again, then China would no longer be any sort of a threat to us like it wasn't 40 years ago.
It all comes back to our monetary policy and taking us off the gold standard. All we did was export the inflation. They turned producers into consumers. So, it really is that simple. And, the American people preferred to be consumers. So,
of cheap stuff.
Pardon?
Consumers of cheap stuff.
Of cheap stuff.
Yeah.
And why did we have to inflate why did we have to export our inflation? We had to export our inflation because our dollar was becoming so worthless that things were getting too expensive. And you're right. People wanted cheaper things. We wanted to be consumers. They dazzled us with fancy machines. They dazzled us with, smartphones. They dazzled the people with this and that, and we wanted it. Bigger TVs, 4 or 5 TVs to a home, 3 or 4 cars to a driveway. So, we were complicit in the removal of a lot of these jobs because it's human nature, I suppose. It's the evolution. Maybe it's the evolution of a country. We're seeing it in China. When the more prosperous a country becomes, you see these changes. From eating habits to our purchasing habits, to our living habits, to our values. So that's, go ahead.
I just do not see that this trade situation is monetary policy because, I've read some economic history, especially one economist, Henry Carey, in the 19th century, and back then we had gold and silver money. But still, we as a sovereign country with a border and with the Constitution saying that the Congress has the power to regulate and tax foreign trade, we've still always, no matter what we've used as money, whether it's been fiat money or gold and silver money, we've always had the choice of whether we want to let imports come into our markets and undersell, stuff made in America, or whether we want to have some kind of policy that makes it so that we don't take in, so many imports that will undersell our own products. And so, that's always been our choice, whether we've had fiat money or gold and silver money. And, in the past, we have made this choice to have tariffs on imports so that they wouldn't undersell stuff made in this country, and so that our markets would be dominated by American-made stuff. But more recently, Congress deliberately made the decision, no, we will not do that anymore. We will let our markets, be flooded tax-free by stuff from other countries, and, we will let stuff from other countries undersell American products, and so all the money and all the jobs will go out of the country to those other countries. I don't see how that has so much to do with monetary policy as it has to do with trade policy.
Why do you think they took us off the gold standard? It all comes back to that because Congress wouldn't have been able to do what they've done if they were held accountable. We wouldn't have all the programs, all the social programs that were created. We wouldn't have a runaway government if they had to still be accountable. We wouldn't have business in Washington. We wouldn't have multinational corporations running our government to some degree. We wouldn't have a lot of this if we still had accountability, and that accountability came from what am I trying to think of a
I don't know, I laughed. I'd help you if I could.
If we had a our monetary policy backed by gold?
If it has some substance.
like I said before, it looks to me like the main thing that in that department, the main thing that the fiat money system has done is it's given the bankers so much more wealth and so much more power than anybody else that they can, that their propaganda completely outweighs anything anybody else says, and so that they've been able to dominate and control Congress, much more effectively since they did take us off the gold and silver standard, and the people didn't have so much voice in Congress anymore, and but it's not a direct result. It's more of an indirect result that our trade policy has been changed because the bankers have so much more influence over our legislators and our media and everything like that, because they have got so much richer than anybody else because of the fiat money system. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I'd like to get off and let somebody else have some time here. So thank you very much. Good talking to you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Go back to the very beginning of that conversation about debt. I know that the lender, on a personal individual basis, the lender, it is to their advantage to keep you in debt. So you keep paying. It is the lendee, the person who's borrowing the money, who is in debt, the debtor, that ends up breaking. Eventually, there will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that's what I see going on. And I understand some of what Joe was saying. They are manipulating it, and they're going to keep it going as long as they possibly can. It's to their advantage. It's to their advantage not to let it collapse, but
they're going to print.
But eventually, we're going to break.
Yeah, they're going to print until the cows come home. But in the meantime, our country is being used as collateral.
Yes,
our lives, our freedoms.
Yes, I'm gonna send you an article on that one of these days. I know I said that before, and I haven't done that. I hear music. We have taken up the entire large segment of the show, and that's good. It was a good conversation, good rebuttals going back and forth. You are listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218, and Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately. and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Always assume the mic is on. And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. We've had a pretty good conversation about the economy and whether it will or will not collapse. Joe's a good friend of the show. He calls in quite a bit, and we don't always agree 100%, but you know what? We talk it out. We talk it out. And we have Neil from Missouri. Neil, how are you today?
Oh, just staying warm. I'm glad it's warming up.
It is cold, isn't it?
On this thing with the dead economy, what the big picture that people are missing is that the dead economy has driven the people off the land.
Yeah,
and that's
we
what
were
they're
talking
really
about that during break.
Because people are so far in debt, they can't afford to buy property anymore. 50 years ago, we had 75% of the people of this country who lived in this country owned their own property. Now that's dropped to less than 30%, and even those people who think they own their property actually are so far in debt to the banks that if the bank calls their note due, which they can in any banking emergency, they're going to lose their property anyway. And this is what the war is all about. To win a war, you got to control the real estate.
We're talking about individual debt when we're talking right now.
Right, we're talking about individual
when we were talking to Joe,
we're talking about driving.
It was the national debt that we were talking about.
Driving the people off the land is what they're doing, driving the people off the land into the city, which are basically just huge prisons, complete with armed guards.
And even if you do have your property paid for, then you have property taxes.
Yeah, but that's only by choice. You don't have to pay those property taxes. All you have to do is get the federal land patent registered on your property, tell them to stick their real estate taxes in your ear because you don't have to pay them. You only got to pay that real estate tax so long as they can sell your property on a tax deed. But see, the federal land patent supersedes the tax deed. Tax deed isn't any good if you've got a patent on the property.
Okay, but not everybody knows about that. So let me back up right here because, and you've talked about that on this show, and you've talked about it on my show, and I have made the information that you sent to me available for my listeners. But the majority of people do not know about that, and some states don't have property tax. Not every state has property tax. But we have become, and with all the things that we have, whether it's taxes, which are also license and permits and all these other fees that they tax on, whether it's that or the restrictions and the mandates and the regulations that they throw at us, we have become serfs on the land, and there's a reason for that. They want the land because the land is wealth. And Derry Brownfield, my mentor, he said years and years ago, it's our land for collateral because of the national debt. What do you think of that, Neil?
Oh, that's exactly what it is. That's why Obama put millions of acres into the International Wildlife Preserve.
As did Bill Clinton.
He's posting that to see every time they can take land from the people and put it into a national preservation reserve, the international banksters will loan the government more money because then they've got more collateral. It's the same way with every time you get a person who becomes a citizen, which is how Clinton got the budget surplus. He made 8 million Mexicans citizens of the United States. Basically, just gave amnesty. They didn't have to go through any citizenship requirements, which allowed him then to go to the international banksters once they're issued Social Security numbers and borrow at least $2 million. I've heard it's as much as $20 million against their lives. And that's what collapsed the Mexican banks because they lost their collateral. The 8 million Mexicans they lost as collateral. The banks called the notes due on those 8 million Mexicans. The Mexican banks collapsed, and then who bailed them out? The United States bailed out the Mexican banks as payment for those 8 million Mexicans, which are worth more in the United States as collateral than they are in Mexico as collateral. I think they're only worth like $40,000 a head in Mexico, but they're worth at least $2 million in the United States. So this is how the money scam works.
And it's exactly what it is a scam.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it.
Hey.
You know, we've talked about this debt, and we're about to run out of time again today. We talk about the debt here in the United States and the individual debt. And I was mentioning to Melody during the break after our conversation with Joe, I said when we talk about individual debt, the lender, it is to their advantage to keep you in debt. So they don't really want to collapse you, because if they collapse you, you're not paying them that monthly payment all the time. So it is to their advantage to keep you going, and it is to their advantage to keep the nation going. This is hypothetical, Melody, to keep the nation going with this debt so they can keep gaining ground on you or on this nation. But just like the individual, eventually that debt, the straw that broke the camel's back, is going to be more than you can take on, and you have to collapse. You have to file bankruptcy. You have to run away from your creditors or whatever it is that's going on. And it's going to be the same way as a nation, only there won't be any running away.
But there is one way, and this is my segue.
There you go. I set it up for you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
I'm good for something.
And there is one way to be independent from out of the system, and of course, and to protect your purchasing power is through gold and silver. And that's why gold and silver is so important. It's not any other investment, is how you can protect yourself about what the future truly holds for us and for your children and for your grandchildren. Whether it were the adjustments, the resets, the new currency, whatever it may be, whether it happens today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years, 20 years from now, we've been put in a position, the citizens of this country have been put into a position that we need to provide for ourselves, protect what we work for, what we have saved. And gold and silver, yeah, you got to get out of debt. And yes, you got to protect your savings with gold and silver. So give us a call at 1-800-375-4188. Let me take a peek right here to see what the metals were doing. They were up a little bit higher this morning, still a little stronger, so I'm going to continue my special that I had yesterday at the $520 for 21-ounce silver rounds and a 1/10 American Gold Eagle. Include shipping at $520. If you'd like to upgrade those silver rounds to silver eagles, in addition to the 1/10 American Gold Eagle and shipping, it would be $555. So your choice on the silver, great prices for both, whether they're silver rounds or you're looking for the American Silver Eagle. Each little package includes a 1/10 American Gold Eagle and your shipping. So give us a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. And I can't stress to you, yes, we've got great pricing. Our service is the best that you can find in this industry, and we do support many programs and to help with the truth, to bring the truth, to weed through all the misinformation and distractions that we're facing today. And that also tells me how close we are, because the distractions are multiplying. And to me, that just makes it to the point that we're closer. We're getting closer to something. We're getting closer to something.
Something happening. There's many that think it's going to happen right away. There's those that'll think it's and we're talking about the economy, or even something else that would affect the economy and maybe be that straw that broke the camel's back. You've got to be prepared. And you know what Neil says? Neil says, don't be prepared, live prepared. If you can do that, that's great. We're not all in a position, and I know he would argue with me on that, but we're not all in a position where we can just completely change our lifestyle right here and right now. It takes time to build up to that. So be thinking about what it is you want to do, and but be sure to call Melody at I'm sorry, at 1-800-375-4188. I started to give the last four numbers first. 1-800-375-4188. We've had a good show.
Yes,
and I had a lot of information. I like it when we battle back and forth, even if we don't agree, because we still come up with ideas. We still come up with, explanations for things, and I think that's great.
And there's a lot of things that aren't being talked about today. I was reading where Tillerson, we're keeping troops in Syria. Turkey's having a fit. Turkey's ready to go to war. And that's something that's not even being discussed or, anyone paying any attention to. And you've got Israel in there. Israel's been bombing. They'll do their little sorties and so forth over Syria and so forth. And you got Russia. So, you know what? Who knows what will break? Who knows?
Well,
what will break
I had an article too. I had an article too that the Saudi billionaire Walid, I don't know how you pronounce his name, that he's being tortured in prison, and that's another that's over there in the middle. Yeah,
he's not paying his ransom. Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening to Power Talks, and we are finished for the day, bringing you as much talk, as much truth as we possibly can, because we do believe that, as the song we're closing with, truth will break you free. Thank you, Melody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Tomorrow will be Open Mic Friday.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.